good evening, ladies and gentlemen. WeatherBrains episode number 953. This is for the 22nd of April, 2024. And I think you know what this is. This is the pre-show. It's the magical, marvelous part of the program where we typically do three things. We share boring personal stories, humorous anecdotes, and from time to time we say really, 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 really outrageous things. All right, so looks like everybody's joining in here. Let's bring them in. Always kind of a sad day. One of our prime news anchors, who has been with us for 8 years, wrapped up his career today. When you work for somebody for 8 years, you kind of get to know them and you bond with them, and just a really, really good guy, a guy by the name of Stephen Quinn. Stephen is also a weather dweeb, and he's very good at weather. And his last on-air show was this evening at 6 o'clock. So we just had a little quick farewell event for him. And, saying goodbye is just part of the business, I guess. But Stephen is going to a different market. I don't think I'm supposed to say where, but we'll say where soon. But enough of that. I see some important people from the Tennessee Valley.
Trying to find who you're talking about.
That's you.
How are you, sir?
I'm good. I'm in the WeatherBrains corporate closet where we do the show here.
Is that it?
Yes.
That's all we can afford.
Yeah, this is our deluxe accommodations right here, and I love this club. Every time we have a new manager, they'll come in here and say, "Don't you want a better office?" I'll say, "No. This is the greatest place in this building to work because probably 98% of the people here don't know where I work. Therefore, I can get things done."
I don't think they know where the Oreos are either. I see Oreos behind your left shoulder there.
Yeah,
There
you go. Better hide those.
Oreo thins, right? I mean,
are those the low-calorie Oreos, James?
No, they're just thins. You eat just as many, I think. So,
So, James, do you think we could Airbnb your place out when you're gone on vacation or anything like that? Maybe?
I think we should. A lot of people have commented that they see this. It's not even dawned on me that this was in the shot.
That was evil.
Kiss album. And most of you don't even know who Kiss is.
What that was
favorite? Hey, man, I love Kiss.
Hey, I know exactly.
Yeah, we may be like 3 years old, but come on, yeah.
Exactly. What was your favorite Kiss song, James, man?
Oddly enough, that makes no sense. There was a song called Beth.
Yeah,
that they did. That was not a rock and roll song. Yeah. This was a low tempo ballad. And I don't know, but something about the tongue thing didn't work for me. The Gene Simmons and that's just not. It didn't work for me. So
little unappealing.
But another anchor that left. One of our anchors, his last night was this evening. He just left the building. One of our other anchors that left years ago, Dave Baird, who I work with forever. He had some Kiss albums for some reason, vinyl albums in his drawer, and he was cleaning out his desk, and he said, hey, man, you want some Kiss albums? I said, sure. So
sounds like a guy in a panel van pulled up and asked you that in 1979.
And remember, I'm the guy. I think Ben was up there. I spoke at that thing in Nashville.
Yes.
And Chrissy Hurley came up and she gave me a little bag when it was over. I said, I got something special for you. And it's the chemtrail pilot switch. So I can be a chemtrail operator on any flight. I'll just take this with me. So there you go.
You do that and we'll handle hearts. So we got you.
Yeah, I've gotten in a lot of trouble by, writing about it on our website. Like, I like doing the debunking stuff like, oh, it's a bunch of nonsense. But the people do not like that.
No, they are not nice. They are not
receptive.
Nice.
No,
they are committed.
They're committed. Yeah, they're very committed to their beliefs. It's kind of amazing.
Yes, we have. They're mean. I mean, let's get real. They're just mean. I mean, they
It's true.
Yeah, I actually had to turn one into law enforcement. This was a personal message. And it listed my wife's name, our two children's name. Of course, they're grown now, and our address. And they said, you're in grave danger. if you continue to lie about how we're being sprayed with poisons and we're being killed and mind controlled. And by nature of my agreement here, I have to turn in threats like that. So, this is a weird subset. And I will say the flat earthers and the chemtrailers, they run in the same pack. They're very much bonded there. So, but after saying this, I'm sure they will come get all of us. And see, you have tainted yourself because you're on the show with me.
I don't even know who you are.
Yeah.
Never heard of you.
And the snake people, and I got nothing against snakes. I really don't. But
I do.
There's some.
I do.
You mean
Yeah,
the ones that don't want you to kill them?
And I don't make any comment. I'm just posting pictures, and it's like I'll post a sunset picture. But boy, if they remotely think that you're doing anything that might suggest a snake would be harmed, they will attack you personally. It's like these action teams. They're not really local. They come in from all over the country. So being attacked is just part of the experience.
Oh my goodness!
Doing what we do here.
I feel like we need to make up reasons to get attacked because we don't cut into stuff. You guys have it rough. We don't cut into like The Bachelor or NFL.
Well, that stuff's gone away, really, except for
we got
live.
Oh, we did get,
exactly.
We have still been accused of it. That's true.
Yeah, we got accused of it a few months ago when we broke in and interrupted somebody's programming, and I was like,
how could this happen?
Really?
Yeah.
We're all weather, bro. What's this game you're talking about? They're mad that we interrupted our own, channel.
They get mad about it. WeatherBrains interrupting James's radar channel.
Yeah, oddly enough, we have had problems. If there's active weather, there's radar. It's a loop. It's the loop that does all these graphics. And if we have active weather on a Monday night and we interrupt people, some of the older folks that don't use their phones or tablets or computers for radar, they get agitated. But we can handle. They're typically nice complainers. They're not mean. Some of them are just mean, but they're not mean. Maybe our Oklahoma folks will be here before they go into DEFCON 8 for the next 10 days.
I'm waiting for the puns from James 8 a lot.
He is the king of the puns.
The man is very punny.
And we can't start until the top of the hour, so we can start off
2 minutes.
Hello, Johnny Parker.
Hi, Dale.
How are you?
Yes.
JP, best looking man on the show.
You should have worn your Johnny Cash suit tonight, the one you had on at Mississippi State.
Yeah, I thought about that, but
funny.
So for those that don't know, Johnny's a big ladies man. They love this guy. And
you just
of
see
course,
his black suit.
It's his good looks, but also he can take him to the gun show. You can tell he's got that, sun's out, guns out. I have noodle arms. It just doesn't work for me.
Different kind of arms, but when you go up to Ben's place, you can go by the pharmacy and gun store. They have a combination right there nearby. Are they advertisers yet, Ben?
Yes, they are.
Yes, you better believe it.
That's how I found out about them. That's right.
That's the most southern thing in the world.
Yeah, for real.
Your pharmacy and gun store all in one.
Yeah, John Olson and I had to drive over there and visit it and buy a T-shirt.
Now, do y'all have one of those orangutan boxing places there in Lawrenceburg?
No, not yet.
I want one now. I don't know what that is.
Give it time.
Yeah,
Oh, no. They literally put a helmet on you, and you wrestle with this orangutan. It's become a thing apparently. So
that sounds dangerous.
That does.
That's a topic for another day.
Telling me you don't want to talk about orangutans? That's why I'm here.
We were discussing that today at midday. All right, let me get this thing going here. All right.
That was like a show title to me.
Yeah,
no doubt.
Make sure to bring it up after the show starts.
All right, so here we go. We'll roll weather call and then the regular open. Here we go in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
You've heard James say it a million times. Respect the polygon. At Weather Call, we call, text, and email you when you're in the polygon. So in a way, we make the polygon better. With solutions for personal use, businesses, schools, pools, playgrounds, and RVs, there's a Weather Call solution that's right for you. Check us out at weathercallservices.com.
You're listening to WeatherBrains. They're kind of a big deal.
WeatherBrains episode number 953, the weekly show that's all about weather. This is for the 22nd of April, 2024. 953, we're getting closer and closer to 1,000. We're going to get Bill Murray and his team to ultimately firm up the location here, Bill, on this. I mean, we got to do something good.
I know. I got to get to work on that. I'm going to put out an RFP. Maybe somebody will pay us big bucks to come to their location, James.
Yeah, we'll see. But no, we're at 953, and yeah, of course, everybody. So James ate a lot. You got a suggestion, so let's hear it. I mean, we see what you got in the chat session here.
I mean, doesn't have to be Wesley's.
Yeah, it does.
Just saying.
That was my thought.
Yeah.
It does.
And for those that don't know, that is called Wesley's Booby Trap Lounge, which was used in a tornado situation and became
Famous. Certain TV meteorologists.
They sent me a Wesley's Booby Trap shirt, which I immediately gave to somebody else and did not take that home to my wife.
Well, tell me Brian Peters wasn't already parked in the parking lot when it came, James. That wasn't true,
we know that's where Brian, you love to do some storm spotting up there, and it is up on a hill, and it's on a county line that separates Walker County from Jefferson, that overlooks
view to the southwest.
Jefferson.
So it's a good view.
Is that what you're saying?
Okay. Yes, it's a good view. Okay.
We're taking this show right down the tube tomorrow. Jen, I am so sorry. Jen Nairmore, I apologize.
I'm not taking the blame for this one.
We went into the parking lot of Wesley's Booby Trap in August, and there is a great view of the sunset. But you have to be careful because there's so many craters, potholes in that parking. I thought I was going to lose my transmission. It was awful. So yeah, but it has a wonderful view of the sunset. It's awesome.
I feel better that Jen has actually been there. So
yeah, it does. Me too. I agree with you, James.
Last up the
so
I want to just confirm in the parking lot.
So let's go to Rick Smith before he goes into 20 consecutive days of tornado coverage. Rick, goodness gracious, what's going on out there?
I don't know, but it's glad to be. I'm glad to be back on a Monday. What was it like? Was it 3 weeks in a row? It seems like 8 or 9, but yeah, we broke the streak on Mondays. Now we're going to do all the rest of the days of the week now, I guess.
All the days that end in wine.
Yeah. Tis the season. Yeah, James ate a lot. You're kind of in the same boat, I guess, huh?
Yeah, sure are. So we'll see what happens. And we're just kind of hoping it's east of us heading Jen's way by Sunday or Monday of next week. And then we'll see what happens toward the end of next week too, because yeah, I loaded up coffee back here. So I'm ready to go.
Okay. And a lot of the WeatherBrains people, they love to watch, you and because you're a WeatherBrains person, and they feel like they know you, and it's just like this personal connection. So and for those that don't know, James is good during tornado coverage, and I'm not nice, I'm honest, and he's very, very, very good at what he does. The messaging, the way he handles it, we can all learn from this. So if they go into weather coverage in Tulsa, be sure and watch James. Nothing on anybody else there, but I'm just saying that you're good at what you do. So Troy Kimmel is good at what he does. He's getting ready for the 127-degree heat that comes in Austin this summer. How hot was it today?
Overstated. It'll be 125. So, at least.
Yeah, 125. Yeah.
Right.
How'd you do today?
It really pretty nice today, in the 70s and sunshine. We got in the 40s for lows, 50s for lows tonight. We were in the 40s over the weekend. And besides that, had a half inch of rain on Saturday, which was nice. Some areas, I was up in Dallas-Fort Worth for a meeting over the weekend, James, and parts of the Dallas-Fort Metroplex had 3 to 4 inches of rain. So it rained all day on Saturday, thunder and lightning. I haven't seen thunder and lightning all day long like we had in Dallas, Fort Worth over the weekend.
Wow. If only people could read the comment, the chat session we have going on here.
That's a terrible idea.
I've been keeping an eye on it, and James has those puns rolling.
Yeah, no, they are
You're
in
right.
full force.
You're right, James Tulsa.
But let's bring in Bill Murray. Bill, please, let's get this show back on track and introduce our very special guest. We got an all-star lineup tonight.
Yeah, we do, James. Tonight's guest panelist needs no introduction to the WeatherBrains audience. He graduated with his BS degree in meteorology from Mississippi State University in 2016. Johnny Parker, welcome back to the show. How have you been lately?
I'm good.
Well, I saw you at the Mississippi State Conference, and you were sporting a good-looking, all-black Johnny Cash-looking suit. Any chance you're going to take on a career in country music here soon, Johnny?
No.
Yeah, well,
I would pay good money to hear Johnny sing "Ring of Fire" on this show.
There you go. There you go.
I mean, I would pay good money for that.
Yep.
You know, we used to call that when I was a kid. When I was a kid, what did we call that? Now, you guys did it too. What did we call that? We were kids. What was the song called? The hemorrhoid song.
Yeah, it was a hemorrhoid song. Yeah.
No, I didn't.
Ring of Fire.
Well, now there's the show title right there.
Well, Johnny,
wow.
We're very excited to talk to you a little bit later about your thoughts on hurricane and severe weather season after the recorded segments tonight. So please jump in and ask plenty of questions with our guest weather brains. Just let us know, if you've got something in the chat, and we'll throw it your way. But we're glad to have you here tonight.
Thank you.
So tonight on Weather Brains, we're excited to welcome the team from the Tennessee Valley Weather. I always want to, I should just say Tennessee Valley Weather. I want to throw authority or channel or something on the back of it. But these guys
Bill, we know too much, like, TVA. I mean, I'm Tennessee Valley Authority, and I'm thinking about that to some degree.
There you go.
Been from Northeast Mississippi, but yeah.
That's right. So these guys, though, are redefining local weather broadcasting. They've got television quality production, state-of-the-art studio in Lawrenceburg, Tennessee, and an innovative approach that brings expert, community-based weather reporting directly to viewers in their area. First tonight, we have the managing meteorologist, Tennessee Valley Weather. He's been fascinated by meteorology since childhood, influenced by witnessing severe weather in his hometown, 2 decades or more of radio and television, and plenty of contributions to community service. His career is marked by deep local ties and a commitment to public safety. Ben Luna, welcome to Weather Brains.
Bill Murray, thank you so much for the opportunity and for having all of us to be a part of this tonight. And, it's neat. Brian just did a piece for our website the other day. We were at the 26th anniversary of Tennessee's only F5 tornado, and that is 5-6 miles from where we're sitting, that tornado path. And as a kid, I remember watching that coverage that day, and like everybody around this table, that was the day that I said, I'd always loved weather, thought about being a meteorologist, but when I grew up, but that was the day that said, okay, I'm in 100%. And now this is where this has come to. But all of this that we have here is a team effort, and these people sitting next to me, hey, this is what it's about, is everybody here making a difference where a difference needs to be made.
You never pay for lunch in Lawrenceburg when you go out with Ben, because somebody is coming up and talking to him and telling him hello. He's made a real difference in that community. The next amazing team member is the chief meteorologist for Tennessee Valley Weather. Extensive experience from his early fascination with weather during Hurricane Andrew to critical roles during major tornado events in Alabama. His expertise is complemented by his background in education and community-focused forecasting. Fred Gossage, it's an honor to have you here tonight.
Thank you, sir. It's an honor to be here. I've watched the show for years. You guys know that I grew up in Central Alabama watching Birmingham TV. James Spann is a hometown hero for me, and you never try to copy anyone, but he's who we've tried to pattern our policies after and that kind of thing. So it's an honor to be here on WeatherBrains tonight.
Well, it's sure an honor to have you here. Next, I want to introduce staff meteorologist for Tennessee Valley Weather Channel. I had the pleasure of getting to sit with her while she put her weathercast. She does the noon weathercasts almost every day and handles a lot of other roles. Originally from Chicago, understanding. Kelly, you can correct me if I have that wrong, but she has a robust academic background in meteorology, a passion for educating the public on weather safety. Kelly Rawson, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. It's such an honor to be here with all of my colleagues, and it's such an interesting story of how I came to be exactly where I am, because who knew that Lawrenceburg, Tennessee, of all places, would have a state-of-the-art broadcast center. And I've worked in several TV news stations before, and this has everything that we need, and even more than that. So it's fantastic to be here. I love to use my passion for weather. I didn't live in Dixie Alley or Tornado Alley growing up, but I was fascinated by the weather. I watched the Weather Channel every outbreak I could watch, because we didn't get that where I grew up. We got blizzards and thunder snow and loved that, but my passion is definitely severe weather and helping to communicate risks and help keep people safe and save lives. So that's why I'm where I am, and I'm super happy to be here tonight.
Well, that's awesome, and that's why we're all here. And we're so excited to have you on the show, Kelly. And last but not least, the weekend meteorologist of Tennessee Valley Weather and a bunch of other weather networks around the country dedicated
That's true.
to providing detailed and accurate weekend forecasts for the Tennessee Valley Weather Channel, but also as a radar expert. Brian Wilson, the man with a famous name, welcome to the show.
So they say. I'm glad to be here. I was kind of waiting to see if you mentioned my hair, because I remember when we hung out with James. I know James remembers this. He said,
Can I borrow that Friday?
Is that real hair? Well, we'll work something out behind the scenes.
It's clearly a toupee. It has got to be a toupee, no doubt.
Yeah.
Well, last time it ran away, and I mean, I was afraid it would get shot somewhere.
We about called him the Terminator when I saw it.
But
And y'all, while you're here, and I'm thinking about it before I forget, Brian is a must follow on Twitter. Lots of great radar knowledge.
And this guy's a must follow for the puns. I've been keeping a very close eye on the chat. I love interacting with this guy on Twitter. It's crazy.
Well, I told Brian that I was going to introduce him tonight by his Twitter handle instead of his real name, @DualDoppler.
More people probably know me as that than Brian Wilson. So I think that's kind of a fair assessment. But I definitely, James A, we've had our share of interactions, because I like watching him because he's a radar guy, and he's one of us. He's one of me anyways. So me and him have a mutual connection in Vivek at SPC. So yeah, we get along. Yeah, we get along, me and James.
Yeah, well, we'll talk about that too before the night is over. But Brian, and I won't share a lot of the stories that I've been regaled with about your exploits in radar, because the statute of limitations hasn't run out yet. But,
I'm watching you.
So we'll just leave those alone. But Kelly started touching on her personal story, but I'd love to hear a little bit more of the career journey of each of you. Ben, I'll kind of start with you. You mentioned the F5 in Lawrenceburg, that forgotten tornado from that day of the big tornado in Nashville that hit downtown.
That day, April 16th, 1998. And yeah, that's the title or the name of the F5, the forgotten F5. And the reason being was technically Lawrence County in Lawrenceburg is in the Nashville market. Well, earlier that afternoon, Nashville had been hit by the tornado in downtown, and that was big news. Well, that's where all the focus was that day, and rightfully so. But at the same time, or near the same time, when all of that coverage was underway, here's this monster tornado that drops down in rural Lawrence County. And, luckily it didn't do any more than it did in terms of damage and death. It could have, and what it did was horrible enough. But, the sediment of that day has followed this region all the way through. And that made this an opportunity for us to again, try to make that difference here, is because, hey, we're worried about southern middle Tennessee, northwest Alabama, and northeast Mississippi. And where normally you would see major cities on weather graphics and maps, well, here it's rural country towns. And that's our focus. But that day cemented it for me. I was 12, started in radio when I was 14, running baseball games on WDXC AM in downtown Lawrenceburg. And then I went to WLX and stayed there for 22 years. At the same time, I had the opportunity to work as the weekend meteorologist. I did the Mississippi State online program, did the Penn State thing. That's what Brian's underway with now. And went to work under Spencer Denton at Way TV. I made the hike up that mountain for 3 years. That was fun. Still worked in radio here and went back full time into radio in 2015. And then in 2020, an unwarned EF1 tornado drove through the middle of Lawrenceburg and still continued to do weather stuff, did some stuff on social media. But that night, people needed change. And February 5th of that year, the whole concept of this is where it just picked up and went from. So 4 years later, here we are. We just opened our own broadcast facility. On Halloween Day was grand opening. And we've got 2 studios. This is the second of 2. The Weather Center is across the hallway. And, we're again, just here to do what we try to do the best that we can. And not only do severe weather coverage, what Fred said, but, also we're doing daily forecast updates, community service things, and, have fun doing it. And again, making that difference where it needs to be.
Yeah, Dr. Kim Cloco McLean, welcome to the show. Would like to introduce you to the gang from Tennessee Valley Weather. They're doing some cool stuff up there. We've delved into that a little bit, into what they're doing. So, Kim, how are you tonight?
I'm great. Sorry to be a little bit behind. It's the kid bedtime stuff, but I'm delighted to meet you all. Thanks for being on our show.
And Johnny Parker's joining us from Smithfield, Mississippi, who you know very, very well, Kim. And we're going to talk to him about his hurricane forecast. It's not good after the recorded segment, so get ready for that. But Kim, we're just walking through the career journeys here. That's been Luna, who you probably know. I'd like to ask Brian the same question. Brian, talk about how you got so smart about radar.
Is that what they're calling it these days? I don't know. My third word apparently was rain. My mom says in 2003, 2004. I'm the baby of the group, so 2003, 2004 is like light years away from me. But that was also when my first weather memories were. But I didn't get into radar until about, what's today's date? The 22nd, almost 10 years ago. This week, April 28th of 2014. I'm sure you guys remember that day. That was there were those EF4s in Mississippi and the EF3 in North Alabama, Limestone County. I chased that. That was the first chase I ever went on. I was 12 years old. I don't know who thought that was a good idea, but it's proven fruitful. That day I got into radar because I saw UAH Max, their mobile Doppler radar, doing that. And slowly but steadily I worked my way, and like James A. said, I've just been posting on social media for years about it. And Fred found me in 2019.
I'm not responsible for that.
Yeah, he's not responsible for this, I guess. But no, you did though. You found me on like Facebook or something, and you said it was 2020 when I started, May 2020, and you said, we're getting a radar, and you seem to know a thing or two. Can you come up and just check it out one of these days? And then by the same day, I was talking to him. He was like, "Hey, you want to just stick around, be the intern?" So I was an intern for. What was that, like a year and a half?
Actually, you're still the intern.
I guess I'm still. Oh, am I still the intern? Don't worry, my paycheck says otherwise. But so I was the intern for like a year, just screwing around with the radar pretty much. And now of course, I'm full time here. We have our own radar working on more. And to be honest with you, I don't tell Ben this often, but I think the on-air stuff is just a facade for me to toy with radars. It justifies my job because I do a lot of freelance radar stuff. I've fixed up, I've worked on every single meteor radar in Alabama, if my math is right. Way 31, WVTM. Sorry, James, I'm not a trader, I swear, but Jason needed some help there. I've worked on all of those. So that's kind of my specialty. And then to justify that, he gives me a job on the weekends to do the weather there. But this is my first and hopefully only weather job that I've had really in any meaningful sense.
Well,
so that's kind of
Jason's part of the family too. So
yeah, we love Jason Simpson. He's awesome.
We'll let that one slide right there for sure, Brian. That's great. I want to come back and talk about the radar in a minute because I think that's an important part of what y'all are doing. Kelly, you mentioned you didn't come from Dixie Alley. Talk to us about your background.
Yeah, so I grew up in the Chicago suburbs, and I mean, we didn't have much exciting weather other than the blizzard of 2011 with thunder snow. And when I moved on to college in Kentucky, I didn't even know thunder snow was such a rare occurrence. And everyone I met, they're like, "You're from Chicago, so you heard thunder snow back in 2011?" And I was like, "Yeah, I did. Is that like a big deal or something?" And then come to find out, in my studies, I ended up doing research projects on that blizzard, and come to find out it's a very, very fascinating phenomena. And so didn't really grow up with many tornado outbreaks to personally link myself to. There was November 17th, 2013, where we had a couple close tornadoes, but mostly in central Illinois. But otherwise, I just had a fascination for weather. I grew up in the standard Midwest household of if there's a tornado warning, you're grabbing your lawn chairs, going to the front porch and watching it with your dad. So he was going to protect me if anything else. But then I went to school at Western Kentucky University in Bowling Green, Kentucky, graduated from there, had such great opportunities there. And if you'll remember in 2017, the solar eclipse, and we were in totality, and we got to forecast for a good 58 seconds of one day. And I might say we did nail that forecast. So had a lot of really cool opportunities, got to go on a 2-week storm chasing trip, got to see my first tornado, because again, grew up in the Chicago area, didn't really get much action in that aspect. But so I am super blessed with all of my education, schooling, graduated from there, went to work in Eastern Kentucky at my first TV station, was a meteorologist there. And then my personal life actually called me back to Tennessee, where I am now. And so I actually had to take a step back from weather, leave my weather job. Still worked at a news station. I worked at WAFF in Huntsville, Alabama, and I worked as the weekend news producer. And I honestly, at that point, had in my mind, I was just going to get out of the business. I didn't want to make any advances to the weather team or anything. I just wanted to have a contract, get through my contract, and then move on to something else. But, once you stay away from weather for a little bit, it comes back to you, and it comes back even with a more fervent passion than before. So I was really itching to get back into the business. And lo and behold, I lived in Lawrenceburg, Tennessee. We have this operation, Tennessee Valley Weather, in Lawrenceburg, Tennessee. And so the math was just mathing, as the kids say these days. And so I just hop, skipped, and jumped over here once my contract was up. And I've been here ever since and don't plan on going anywhere else. And I'm super happy here. And I also have another kind of side passion of, females in STEM. I'm surrounded by great male coworkers, and I wouldn't trade my team for the world, but this is typically what you see at every shop across the country. So I'm very passionate about inspiring young women with any sort of STEM career, not just meteorology, but just kind of throwing in that passion in there, because a lot of times, especially in rural areas, they don't really see that as an opportunity for them. And my husband, he's a youth pastor. And so I am exposed to a lot of young girls too. So I obviously, lead them closer to the Lord and maybe a little bit closer to a math and science career. So that's kind of my story and where my passions lie.
Well, you certainly represent, Kelly, that's for sure. And Fred, you're a good Alabama hero yourself. Talk about how you got interested in weather.
Well, picture it, Sicily, 1942, because it seems so long ago. The first inkling that I may be interested in weather was Hurricane Andrew. Third grade teacher Sue Garrett, you guys may know her from her cooking shows on social media these days. She focused on Hurricane Andrew because our first week of school on the year-round system was when Hurricane Andrew was hitting Miami. So we got to focus on that as a science lesson, that kind of thing. So I had a passing interest, and then the Palm Sunday 1994 outbreak happened, and we were watching James' coverage when the tornado hit Goshen United Methodist that morning, and that really sparked an interest. Visited relatives around the midday that day, and on the way back home, I was in Shelby County at the time. We actually had to slam on the brakes on Highway 280 because the funnel cloud from the Pelham supercell was crossing over Highway 280, and we would have driven into the core of that. So that really solidified everything. Unlike these guys, yet I am not formally trained, and I want to be completely honest with that. This has been a job experience and self-trained thing over the years for me so far. I am working toward doing the distance learning program at MSU, and I will be supplementing that curriculum so I can be AMS eligible, but I'm not there yet. But just over the years, middle school, high school, the internet was getting really popular in the late 90s. You could order meteorology textbooks online by then in the early 2000s. So during that period when free model data was getting online, I was studying through online textbooks at a college level, that kind of thing. As part of the Talk Weather Forums, got some forecast practice, mentored under the late Jason Kelly from Panama City at the time, continue to grow my knowledge. 2011, volunteered a few times up at WBRC, our friends JP Dice and such, up the hill during the 2011 outbreaks. I actually drove the radar for those guys on April 27th. I control their online radar display. Right after that, worked at Barron for a while as a forecaster, that type of thing. April 2011, we had seen the need in Northwest Alabama, Southern Tennessee for just supplemental weather coverage because, a lot of times in some of the TV markets when there are multiple storms ongoing and you have a metro area target, you have a rural area target, just as a public risk perception thing, they focus a little more on the metro areas. Whether it was true or not, a lot of people in Northwest Alabama felt that they didn't always get the quality of weather coverage that they deserve. I'm not here to throw anyone under the bus, but that's how some viewers felt over the years. So Drew Richards and I started a digital operation back then called Shoals Weather, ran that for several years. We started doing live long form weather coverage for that in 2018. And then that led us to meeting up with Ben Luna in February of 2020. And then because of everything that went on with him trying to get the radar and trying to grow his operation, we kind of merged those two entities together. And that's how Tennessee Valley Weather formed in 2020. And I've been here ever since. Ben is the managing meteorologist of the operation, and I pretty much team lead the weather team, and I'm the leader during severe weather coverage, and that's my role here.
Yeah, Kim has taken her camera off so that she can preserve her internet quality, the bandwidth there. James thinks there's maybe something more ulterior going on. Kim Plucko McLean, you just commented on the group here. They're a pretty amazing little group. Take that direction you were talking about.
Yeah, I just really appreciate the motivation for getting into this and creating what you've created. It's funny, I was on a panel as part of a geographers conference. The AAG annual meeting was this week, and it was a whole panel on placemaking in weather broadcasts. And we talked so much about exactly what you just mentioned, this oversight of so many local places because they're more rural, or you're maybe downwind of a city instead of having the fortune of being upwind from the city. And so many things that the very random placement we put on these markets and the centers of the markets really affects the quality of coverage that people can expect, and whether they are actually given any attention or not. So something that we talked about and that I love about what you have done is having things like the internet and all of these platforms at your fingertips. It enables you to do things that these broadcasters at the big stations maybe can't do as easily. And that is to provide coverage to whomever you want. You don't have anybody who you're answerable to, like a station manager who's breathing down your neck, trying to tell you where to focus. And so I think it's just wonderful. And I think other panelists probably have thoughts on that same thing.
Yeah, James A., you mentioned something in the chat. Won't you say that?
Yeah, and it's a common conversation that I have with people out of town, and that is, you never say the name of my town on TV, or you rarely say the name of my town on TV. And I always reply with, yeah, but when I do, it's usually not a very good thing. Something bad's incoming. I mean, this is a really, really good service. And what Kim said with pressures to stay where the advertising base is, your bigger cities in the DMA. I'm lucky because my coverage area is small enough that we can do tornado warning coverage for any county in the DMA. We're just on, and that's fine. And we've had support to do that since I've been here. But not everyone has this luxury, especially in areas that aren't as severe weather savvy. And I mean, there are gaping coverage holes in parts of the country. And I mean, giant kudos to you all for this, for not only seeing the need, but for actually figuring out a way to make this happen. That is so awesome and so commendable.
Thank you. You know, this whole thing, and you know, I guess you can go two ways with it. The way that we wanted to do in our goal for Tennessee Valley Weather was to, yes, we know we're going to be a digital entity first and foremost. Truth be known, everybody has one of these. You've got to be here. That's what people are more than likely taking to their safe place during tornado warnings. That's where the first thing, and I'm guilty of this in the morning when I first wake up, boom, hit social media. Okay, what am I looking for? What's going on? What happened overnight? And that's why how we stagger our shows. To always keep a presence on the social platforms. But ultimately, it came down to two ways. Okay, we could do this in I don't want to call it a more modern way, just simply because you can sit behind a microphone and, you know, control radar and stream in that capacity, or you can go the traditional television route, but being native to a digital platform first. And that's the way that we wanted to go. We wanted to offer the traditional professionalism, but yet being able to incorporate the modern technologies, just like during severe weather. Yeah, Fred's on the wall. I'm running radar. Kelly's on social media. Brian's on control. We've got it pulled up to where each one of us can see not just our Slack chat to the NWS, but what our viewers in real time are saying back to us. And the storm that we're talking about in County XYZ, here's a bunch of viewers commenting, hey, I'm seeing golf ball sized hail outside, or I have a 100-year-old tree in the front yard of my house that's not there anymore. And we're able to take in real time do this. And we can also go on and talk about things from tornado warnings, severe thunderstorm warnings, and stay with that as long as we want.
Let me ask you this, and if it gets into stuff you don't want to talk about, that's fine too. I get it. This is a business.
It is.
In TV stations gain revenue based on number of eyeballs watching.
Yes.
How do you generate money? I mean, you've got a radar. No radars. I'm not going down to Walmart to buy one.
Hey, Mark. Blue light special.
We don't have one of those either.
Blue light special.
I got a little blue light on the top of it. That's where it came from.
You sure it's not K-band?
Oh,
I like this guy.
Yeah,
I like this guy.
That's great.
I like this guy.
No, Fred has a good street corner. That's how we're able to do this.
There's a real answer in here somewhere.
Yeah. What's that adperformance place that down in Alabama?
Look, you can look. Come on now.
Yeah.
So we are 110% advertiser supported. The communities that we serve have been very generous. The businesses that support us, again, are very generous, and we're able to run this operation and do so in a method that we're able to pay the power bill and get paychecks every week. But yeah, I've got a marketing exec that works with us, Mary Claire. She does a great job. When I'm not doing weather-related stuff, I'm usually out selling and producing commercials. This whole thing has grown into what started as a goal to provide good weather coverage for the area. The community we started this thing during COVID, and we do have a radar. It was purchased through an appropriation from the state the state of Tennessee, in addition to donations from several local individuals and companies under a 501c3. The data is public and always will be to the National Weather Service. We use it. Other media entities have access to it as well, because we know we're not the guys that press the button to issue a warning. That's NWS Nashville, NWS Huntsville, Memphis, the 3 offices within our coverage areas. And we want them to have access to that data where they can look and see, okay, there's a really well-defined couplet here providing low-level live data, and that's where that comes from. But the community during the COVID era came to us and said, hey, we see what you've done with weather. What are you going to do for sports? And this whole thing went from being a broadcast entity for local weather for the region to now, overnight, it kind of became a TV station. And here we do, we're setting in the studio that normally is used for local sports. We have done, as of Saturday, 601 local broadcasts for sports. We have 3 high schools in the area here that we cover, and 3 middle schools. And the sports team crossed 601 broadcasts. And tonight they've got 4 live right now. So they're sitting at 605 since August. It follows the academic year. And we're looking at expanding that side as we go into a new academic year in the fall.
How do you stay relevant when it's not weather and you're out of the academic year for sports?
We have found that sports continue all year long. Things that I didn't know that they do. We will shift gears out of high school sports, which the way the calendar falls, we'll have a few teams that we cover that will go into the state tournament, maybe even the state championship round for baseball and softball. And that will take pretty much all of May. And then from there, we jump into a couple of big events that we have slated for June. And then we'll be doing a couple of tournaments this year. We go into Little League and Babe Ruth coverage for a while in the summer. And then right after that, we go from there into high school volleyball. And one thing that we do, and this is, again, one of those blessings, our broadcast center sits right next to a city park. In fact, it's the central hub of sports in this area. On the other side of the tree line from our building is an all rubberized baseball field for people with special needs. It's called the Miracle League. It's Abigail's plan. Google it, look it up. A major undertaking to build this $1 million facility a few years ago. And we do some of those games. And you want to talk about something that will touch your heart and bless you beyond all imagine. It's going out, and when these people of all ages, from kids to senior adults, see you setting up cameras to cover their games, man, it's awesome. But look that up, Abigail's plan. Good people involved with that. But weather is always relevant here. The weather side, we stay busy 366 days a year, 7, 8, 9, something like that. So we do specialized forecasts for events, for sporting events. The list goes on. And we do have a 24-hour channel that's carried on YouTube and our app platforms. And people love to watch it. We've got our camera network in there, Radar Loop, our forecast information, and some other neat things that play from time to time on there. So people are always watching. They love to know what the weather is.
Hey guys, this is Rick. It's great to meet you, and I just want to commend you. This is so cool. I grew up in Mississippi, Northwest Mississippi, but I got lots of family in Northeast Mississippi, Boonville, Baldwin, New Albany, Tupelo, that whole area there. So I'm definitely letting them know about what you guys are doing. I wasn't aware of it before, so I'm glad you guys are here. You talked a little bit about, you're kind of at the junction of 3 different county warning areas, Memphis, Huntsville, and Nashville. kind of talk about your relationship a little bit more with the Weather Service. I mean, what does the Weather Service think about what you're doing? I mean, I'm assuming you guys are on chat and get along fine, but talk a little bit about how you interact with those 3 different Weather Service offices.
Yes, sir. We're in chat just like any other media outlet, first off, and we act as an extra set of eyes on our local radar in case they aren't watching local radar from us and we catch a low level circulation, because you guys know the low level radar gap that we're in this part of the country, where the lowest next rad beam is 5,000 to 8,000 feet. So we kind of do that. And then we're at the IWT meetings that Huntsville does. We're up in Nashville at their meetings that they do. We're in good communication with Memphis. We only have a couple of their counties, so we don't get to work quite as closely with the Memphis office, but we're good friends with those guys. When they're doing spotter training out in the area, we try to come out and support that. We've done some weather radio programming things over the years together and just try to do community outreach things, and then also support each other on the weather information side, sharing spotter reports and various things like that that you would expect from a good working relationship. Because ultimately, definitely no competition there. We're there to help and support each other. And honestly, that's kind of the same with other media outlets as well, but really more so with the National Weather Service. We don't pull the trigger on the warnings. National Weather Service does that. And we know that we can talk until we're blue in the face all day, but folks don't know to tune in to watch us unless there's no weather radios going off or there's a polygon on the smartphone app, that type of thing. So the relationship we have with the local NWS offices is really critical to what they do and to what we do as well.
Got a question for you guys too, Troy Kimmel here, and this is one probably for Ben, but I have a feeling it has something to do with Brian as well. But I'm sitting here looking at your website, and how was it, Ben, that I want to call it the CWA, but how did you establish your viewing area?
The viewing area was originally built off of what Fred and Drew did with Shoals Weather.
Okay.
And the radio station that I worked at, WLX,
Right.
when we had started this back then, that was a blend of both Shoals Weather and the radio station's coverage area. And then we just kind of honed in on the counties that really we felt needed the coverage. And from there, it's done very well. We have a lot of viewers in Madison County. Madison County is not one of our primary coverage area counties, but we do very, very, very well in the Huntsville area, simply because people are watching us to see what's going to slam into their backyard in a couple hours.
Yeah. And I was kind of wondering, because I had a feeling it may had to do more with Brian's business to some degree with radar coverage for that radar. Is that
in a way it does, because if you think about the genesis of Tennessee Valley Weather, of your half of it specifically, it was that radar gap that caused that EF1, actually 2 EF1s, if you remember the one in South Lawrence County, both of which went unwarned due to that radar gap, because the radar here, of course, is about 125 kilometers away, 70 something miles. So the beam's like 6,000 feet up. So I guess at the genesis of it, it does have to do with the radar gap fundamentally, as well as the fact, of course, what Fred and Drew were doing 10 years ago. But in a way, yes, on this half, it kind of did stem from that radar gap. And of course, all of our counties, without the X-band and without what's next, there is a radar gap, huge radar gap, all the way as far east to Morgan County, which is our southeasternmost county. There's, heck, how far away is High Top from that? 50 something miles. So, especially in this side of it too, the radar thing, which is really my passion, hugely underserved out here. It's really a cost benefit analysis thing. You can't blame them for putting the radars where they did, but I'm not going to start on that yet. I could ramble. I could ramble on about that for months and months and days and years.
That's what I was going to. I mean, I grew up in Alcorn County, which is just outside your area over northeast Mississippi, and grew up a lot of my life up at Pickwick, above the Tennessee River. In southern Hardin County and Tishomingo County, Mississippi. So I'm really impressed. I have to second what my colleagues here are saying. How impressive and with what y'all done. Very impressive.
Let me piggyback off Troy's question. So in the television business, we have DMAs, designated market areas, and certain counties are assigned to certain TV markets. And when it gets out of your DMA, you have to go back to Freak of the Week or whatever's on TV most of the time. You don't have that problem. And I'm just curious. You stop. I guess at some point you have to draw it, or maybe you don't. Do you do the weather nationally at some point? I mean, you've got this service area you define now. When do you expand that out? Because you don't have DMAs. You can do whatever you want to do.
The way we do things now, especially during a severe weather coverage situation, we do focus on the 14 counties that we consider our coverage area, because if we're not going to dedicate coverage 365, 24/7 to a particular county, we don't want to do it once or twice and mislead these people to think that, okay, you can always depend on us if we're giving you information. And then there are other times, you're a fringe county, I can't give you coverage here because there are storms that are affecting the core of our area. Because we believe, just like you always have, that everybody's equally important, no matter if you're in a rural area or if you're in an urbanized area. If you're in a county that's on the edge of the viewing area, if you're in a county in the core of the viewing area. So we do, you're in or you're out. And if you're out, we'll try to push you to a good source of information. In the future, we may look into doing things outside of that. But especially from a severe weather coverage standpoint, we focus on the 14. That's our official viewing area, but they get equal coverage, no matter if it's a rural region that has a tornado warning, if it's an urbanized region like the Shoals metro area versus Hohenwald, Tennessee. We do the situation based on triage of which storm is stronger and then work our way down to which storm is weaker. But everybody gets equal coverage in the area.
So, and one more thing, I think a lot of people listening, they're probably familiar with this huge group of YouTube weather entertainers that have popped up over the last couple of years. And if you've ever watched them, it's entertainment. That's just what it is. And they ask people to send in money when they're on the air. And you guys don't do that, right? I just want to be sure to kind of distinguish the difference between the TikTokers and the YouTube entertainers. And not that they're all bad.
Right.
Some are, some aren't. But what you do is different.
We are completely advertiser based in the form of running commercials on the channel, running commercials at the start of our weathercast every day, ads on the website, things like that, because Ben feels the same way I do, and I'll let you talk in just a moment. But I would rather have a business supporting me because I provide quality information every day that they can trust, instead of me misleading someone and scaring them and then getting money that way. I could not live with myself doing that.
It's weathertainment. And I would say, looking at our numbers, which you can look and see where people are watching you from, about 10%-ish, a little less, a little more, give or take the event, watches us from outside of our carved out DMA, if you will. And I don't, if you watch us, you're not going to see the like counter, which flies all over me. You're not going to see the donation counter. Yes, we have a 501c3. We have a foundation that we are using to build off of to help projects in the area, to help if we have an event in our area, we can use that for storm victim assistance. I spent 10 years serving the American Red Cross. That is something I'm passionate about. I love to help people, but I also don't like to plaster and banner it everywhere. The scriptures say to go to your quiet place and be one with the Lord in your quiet place. I kind of feel the same way about that. If you go and help somebody, we're not going to go and bring our camera crew with us to, banner us giving to somebody in need. I feel like that's counterintuitive. I feel like that's not the way to properly handle that. And I might be speaking out of turn, and if I am,
I agree with you.
Throw that Coke can at me. But yeah, at the end of the day, I believe that should be done in a moral and respectful way, and not in that aspect.
Well, thank you, James. You're never speaking out of turn, James. When you ask a question, Kim Cloco McLean, you're going to write a book, I think, and we're all going to buy
it. I have thought so many times about the just the randomness of what our weather service geography is, and then consequentially, like where the radars were placed and where they weren't. So you were talking about places that don't have good coverage, on low level radar, and how you can be disadvantaged then, and seeing maybe some of the more ephemeral spin ups or lower level rotations. And I'd love to write the book, how the CWAs got their shapes or something similar, right? Like, so kind of like how the states got their shapes. I mean, there's a history there, and I started to poke around about it a little bit a couple of years ago, among different people, some weather service officials and some researchers, and it sounds like there's sort of a complicated story there. Everyone's sort of like, there's an assumption people know how they came to be, but there's a lot of politics that went on under the hood, and I think it'd be really fascinating and very revealing about the meaning of our system. What did we design it for? Who did we design it for? And who have we overlooked? And especially as we push into this era where the Weather Service in particular is really interested in service equity, we have to understand something of our past to understand how to overcome it. And I really appreciate what you're doing just on those grounds alone. You are helping to overcome the systemic inequity that was built into our system with, these reasons we don't even completely know, I think, in our generation, that belonged to the previous generation. And we need that history to be documented while all those people, or at least most of those people, are still around. So just my 2 cents on that. Go ahead, Rick.
A Smithsonian Channel series, you've got at least 100 episodes right there. How many seasons would that be? How the Grand Rapids CWA got its shape? I mean, I'm all in. I mean, I'll retire and we'll work on that together.
Amazing. Okay, if you want to retire, we can do this. And you know what, Rick? We will have at least dozens of viewers, and it will be so great.
For some episodes, maybe dozens. I think that's optimistic.
One of the things, and I know James deals with this in Alabama, is Coleman not being in the coverage area, not being in the DMA of the coverage area of the CWA. I've got the same thing here with 2 counties in southeast Kansas that are in Wichita's county warning area, but they're in my DMA, and it causes.
We've had the same discussion, here, because we stop pretty much right south of the Tennessee River. The county connecting to our southeasternmost county is Coleman County, and we, at the beginning, it wasn't Coleman, kind of right there on the fringe, but it really is kind of in a weird spot. I mean, poor Coleman County people. I mean, they're in that classic tornado alley of north central Alabama.
It's an interesting situation
because
they feel so underserved, but they never have been. They've always had great TV coverage from both the Birmingham markets and the Huntsville markets, even though they've always legally and officially been in the Birmingham market.
Yep.
And then they've always had good NWS side coverage when they got placed in Huntsville in the early 2000s. And then, in that period in the early 2000s before then, when they were covered by Birmingham. But because of that discrepancy now, where they're covered by the NWS Huntsville, but they're in the Birmingham TV market, but because of the old analog TV days, Huntsville TV stations still talk about them. They don't know who to listen to for some reason. They feel underserved, but they're really not. But it just creates that confusion.
Well, and most recently in the Huntsville market, Jackson County, Scottsboro.
That's right. Yeah.
Right next door to Madison County, Huntsville, the
seat of the DMA, of Huntsville DMA.
And now that's in the Chattanooga market.
Yeah.
I think we need to work out a trade here, and I'll take Chautauqua and Montgomery County in Kansas for a draft pick to be named later. You all can deal with Coleman the way we're on to something.
It's confusing to people.
Yeah.
And it's something, and I don't really get how that happened. I know that people still have a lot of antennas, and I know the market sampling process for sure, but if you have satellite TV or internet-based TV like YouTube or Hulu or anything like that, you can't switch DMAs. You're locked in to where they tell you you have to watch. But yet, here we are. That whole county, poof, gone to a different DMA. That happened when I worked in Huntsville. Jackson County went to Chattanooga, and the Huntsville market picked up Tishomingo County, Mississippi. And we had a weather team meeting one day that said, hey, we got to start doing that. And at the time, we only had to worry about Huntsville. The Huntsville DMA was just North Alabama, a few Southern Tennessee counties, but all of that was in the NWS Huntsville CWA.
And I think it's interesting too that Jackson's always been this hot potato of a county, because that's where our local NextRad is in High Top. So it's kind of interesting that the overlap of the NWS and the CWAs and the DMAs, it's not one-to-one. It's never been one-to-one. And I wonder why that. I think I saw somebody chatting in the chat about that, but that makes me wonder too, because that is where the Huntsville NextRad is Jackson County. And God forbid Huntsville decide what it wants to do with that county. And I guess it's really the syndicates up top and doing all that. That's a whole different discussion, of course. But
individual counties that can hop in and out of a particular DMA year after year, that's kind of confusing to the public too.
It's probably where it starts.
They go for so long watching these local TV people that they come to trust, especially during severe weather, and then all of a sudden there's a DMA reassignment and they can't watch those guys anymore. And they don't know who to trust out of the new market that they're suddenly assigned.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't even know what happened. It reminds me of, I saw this on social media, do you think Andrew Jackson, when he bought the Louisiana Purchase, told every squirrel in Nebraska that happened? Nobody knows. People don't know this stuff because a lot of people just aren't as engaged in the media sphere as we are. And I find that's probably a sociology thing. But I've talked to people in Jackson County about it, and they said they didn't even know. So, I mean, I don't know if that's our responsibility or if it's the people up top. It's just so confusing.
I just feel blessed that we are above the politics of all
that's kind of what I was suggesting there earlier. We don't have some DC corporate companies saying, you need to change your tactics. Thank God. I'm so glad we don't have
the whole thing is like eggshells. And here's the other problem that you guys haven't talked about, and it's very sensitive. Different local weather service offices have a different culture.
Yep.
They really do. And I'm not here to say good, bad about anybody, but I'm just saying when you get one row of counties that are exactly the same latitude, one county's in this CWA, one county's in the other CWA, one county's in that CWA, it makes no sense whatsoever. And that's the thing that we have to understand in the weather business, the professional weather enterprise. These CWAs and the DMAs don't make any sense to anybody. And I'm only hoping that the Weather Service will consider better coordination between offices, because you'll have, for example, a frost advisory. And here's one county that's in it, the county next to it's not, and the other county over there is. And people are saying, well, you ignore me. You ignore me. And no, it's a Weather Service jurisdiction thing. And again, it's complicated, but whatever. The nice thing about you guys, you don't have to worry about the DMA thing, at least, which is very refreshing.
Yeah. That it is. I'm glad we can draw up our own, pretty much, in essence. It's kind of what we did.
And we don't ignore them intentionally. It's the chemtrails that make us do that.
Oh, boy. But that's James at jamesadelot.com.
Does anybody know? Does anybody know when a DMA changes like that, like Jackson County, how long it takes DirecTV and the cable companies to make that switch over?
It's usually a fiscal year thing, isn't it? As far as I was aware,
I think so.
When I was looking at when they announced it, they do these press releases that I don't know who they're intended for, if you think about it, because they're very political things. But it's usually, as far as I'm aware, the fiscal years and the first quarter of the next fiscal year, something like that.
I do know this year when it happened with Jackson County, there was very, very little lead time between the announcement going public and
weeks, if days.
Scottsboro people suddenly don't have WHNT on Dish and DirecTV anymore. So there was very little, if any.
It was lead time. A few days, if that. It was within a week. Yeah. So
Yeah, this is all, gosh, I had no idea that they did press releases for that. That's really interesting to know. A couple of quick comments and a question, I'll pass it along down the line to Jen, but I think people do understand the weather service structure better than we give them credit for, because they do notice that exactly, James, what you're talking about. Like, they notice if they're in or out or of something. I'm in the early phases of putting together a paper that maybe looks at what places in the country might be more prone to having these kinds of problems. And back when I worked at NSSL, my team and I went to one place after there was a small tornado outbreak to see if they did have those feelings. And there was a guy who came to our like the public side interviews to talk about the tornadoes. It was the Red River outbreak down near Idabel, the red, on in December of 2020, gosh, 2022. As I remember, based on which child was I on and where was I in the process of recovering from that. Anyway, so there was a guy who came, and he seriously, he texted me 40 images of things he'd saved over the years from when McCurtain County was not in a watch, but all of its surrounding counties were. And it's because McCurtain County is the one county in Oklahoma that's in the Shreveport CWA. It's not in any of the other surrounding Oklahoma CWAs. It's surrounded by, actually, it borders so many CWAs, which is fascinating in and of itself, but also DMAs. And so when we went down there to see what did you guys do, they were just like, yeah, man, it was hard. We weren't served well by TV, or, in the weather service case, like, we just feel completely overlooked and unseen. So I what you're talking about is so real. And so I think the question it leads me to for you all, when you see those discontinuities between the weather service forecast offices, is there anything that you try to do to smooth it over? Or do you kind of just take the watches and warnings as given and don't try to fill in any, like, do any smoothing? I mean, it has to be such a strange, awkward position for a person in any broadcast role to be, but especially when you've situated yourself in an underserved place where this is what defines that place that you have put yourself, is being at these intersections of the different markets. What do you do?
Typically, I just look at Fred and say, here you go.
Take it away.
Yeah. Let Fred deal with it. No,
handle it, Fred.
I think, and I'll let him talk more about this. Our biggest thing is primarily, if you have a tornadic storm, or maybe this particular cell has been showing more tornadic characteristics, Huntsville has a warning on it. That's going to cross the state line into southern Tennessee and then the Nashville CWA. Well, Nashville might, and this has happened a handful of times, where they'll throw a severe thunderstorm warning on it. And you've got a red polygon and then a yellow polygon. And we do take time to explain that. We don't critique on the air. That's not what we're there for.
Nor do we issue our own warnings.
No. but we do have to take time during our coverage to say, hey, look, here's the thinking. This is what's going on. But, this guy at the end of the table does that phenomenally well. And there again, I just get to sit back a lot of times and watch and see how he or Kelly, who steps in and does a lot and does a fantastic job too, how they explain that during severe.
There have been a couple of times where we've had to straight up say on air, no disrespect to the local offices. It's a situation where it's coverage boundaries and difference of opinion, but we still see the circulation maintaining the same structure it had during this tornado warning. I know it's a severe thunderstorm warning, but I need you to still stay in your safe place. Things like flood advisories, wind advisories, things like that, where there may be a discrepancy in the criteria of it getting triggered across CWAs, and especially with the winter alerts, things like that. We will still show those, but we focus more on our own forecast that shows what the impacts are, what to expect from the forecast, regardless of whether you're in a watch warning advisory, because overall, no matter whether you're in a watch or advisory or whatever, it's that human impact that matters the most. And if we can show that, regardless of what a watch or warning says, I feel like we're still covering what we need to cover.
And ground truth too, because I mean, we have, how many cameras do we have? I don't even know. 30 something?
We've got 34 active.
Yeah, we have 34 active sky cams in the area that we've done over, the last 4 years. And I think regardless of the bucket of spilled paint, like James says, sometimes that is a warning map or a radar map. You can just, let's pull up our camera in South Lawrence County, or let's pull up our Shoals camera and just see it. Let's just look at it and see what's going on there. Because I think that matters more than, whatever's on the crawl.
That, our camera network, we had the EF3 last April
March
1st.
March 31st, April 1st. Yeah, we had that on our camera.
And that was backlit with lightning and this massive wedge tornado rolling through.
Yeah.
But, Fred hit on a topic, and I'm probably going to open a big can of worms.
Do it.
And
that's what we do on the show.
Spill it out across the table. But Fred said, a lot of times we'll try to rely on our forecast and present that. And not that we try to break the chain or any disrespect, but a lot of times, Fred and Kelly, they're the forecast masterminds of this. A long time ago, I got to forecast. It was back when we chiseled, numbers in stone. But I have an hibiscus. But no, we rely a lot on that. Yes, we look at the SPC stuff, but sometimes we'll take and we'll draw out a map of our own that's maybe a little bit more accustomed to how we feel that a certain event's going to play out. We've had people to comment before, hey, why aren't you showing the SPC stuff? Why are you showing your own thing? And again, in no disrespect of what, in any capacity, we're ground truth here. We understand the geography, how this is happening in our region, and sometimes we'll kind of edge with a presentation along those lines. And we also show the SBC stuff a lot of times too, but sometimes we also accompany it with, here's what we think as well.
I love you guys. I am just fascinated with, I love your business model. I love your heart for what you're doing, the area that you're reaching. And I've got so many things going around in my mind, but James mentions often about, the Ron Burgundy days of news is moving away from that. And I really think that you guys have a model of expanding beyond that. And like, you guys could really be the trendsetters for moving forward. And what you're doing is really setting yourself up as the authority and people that we can trust, because there's so much noise in social media and on YouTube, and you're setting yourself apart from the entertainers and all that kind of stuff. And I'm just curious to know, when it comes to severe weather coverage, how do you guys promote yourself? How do you get people to come to you to watch? I'm not mentioning people, but for the entertainers, there's a lot of hype, color, thumbnails, or whatever to try to get people drawn in. And how do
big white arrows?
Yeah, but I mean, how do you guys get people to go, hey, we're here?
Could we have a much bigger audience if we pulled some of those stunts? Yeah, probably. But that's not who we are. And a lot of our stuff has been word of mouth or sharing.
Reputation
building, great term there. People commenting to one or the other, just like what you've said earlier. You're going to tell your family in Northeast Mississippi about us. That's how a lot of what our base has grown. We have radio partners, we have newspaper partners in the area. That all helps, but a lot of it has just been, hey, these guys are here. I'm going to share their stuff. Hey, these guys are talking about the Shoals. These guys are talking about rural, middle of nowhere. What is it? Coondog Cemetery.
Yeah.
In Colbert County, Alabama. That is a hot spot for red polygons, and we'll talk about that all day long. And it's just the word of mouth in the digital age, however that looks, shares, comments, etc., tagging. People will tag us. We've got a few promos that we run on the channel from time to time. About time we shot a couple more, but we don't brag. We don't do those kind of stunts. We don't, come up with graphical polygons to say
this is the worst storm of the century.
End of the world coming soon.
And
no,
a lot of people are sick of that too. There's an untapped, people, it's easy to kind of look at viewers as a statistic of what gets more, what gets less, what's our monthly or quarterly statistics. But people are just sick of the doom of social media.
And here's the thing is how you attract your viewers is how you're going to keep them. If you
it's not
have
sustainable.
all of this hype all of these times, then how are you going to keep your viewers on quiet days? What are you going to talk about? There's nothing to hype up, but we're a 24/7, 365-day business. We don't present hype because we present pure weather facts and meteorological truths so that we can be trusted not only on the high impact days, but on the low impact days too.
Yeah, and I think that reputation building speaks for itself.
Yeah, I was about to say, everybody's going to get a forecast wrong from time to time, no matter how great you are. But just when it all comes down to it, we let the product speak for itself. We let the dedication and the best attempt at accuracy speak for itself. And like you were saying, these guys can't live on hyping things forever. It's not a sustainable business model. And ultimately, also, when you run away your clients, what are you going to do when a really high impact day does come back? They're not listening to you then. And then if you're one of the people that has been guilty of the hyping and the fear mongering for years and years to where people's not listening to you anymore, the people that would have listened to you had you not done that, I feel like their blood is indirectly on your hands when something bad ultimately does happen.
And I'll follow that real quick. And I know y'all have got other questions you want to get to, but we have our own red graphics at Tennessee Valley Weather. You'll see those from time to time. If you go to our website and under the About Us tab, we have a whole section on our website that explains our criteria for when we turn the things red on our channel and on our products. And it's not, there's a chance for thunderstorms today, code red,
first alert. Yeah.
It's okay and it bluntly says it. And I've told people in person since we started this, if we're in that mode, if we're in what we call the red alert mode, you best be listening, because anytime that we've hit those graphics, and again, we're human, nothing is infallible. We can miss one from time to time, just like everybody else. But our ratio from what we've looked at when we've had our red mode days,
our own false alarm ratio, it's been really pretty good.
We've been going 4 years now, and we're not perfect, but I've never pulled the trigger on putting up the red graphics for a convective threat without us having multiple towns in the viewing area having structural damage of some type. So we really keep the hands off the trigger as much as possible. And then when we do show these red graphics, we don't make a big deal about branding them, whatever flashy name that catches attention. We just know that the color red does get a little bit of attention. It's kind of a subliminal, it's in the back of your mind. So we show those. But for severe thunderstorms, the strict criteria is moderate risk or higher for significant tornadoes, significant wind damage, or significant hail. For winter weather, it's either ice storm warning criteria, blizzard warning criteria, or 4 inches or more of snow. We try to make it a little strict because we don't want to sound the alarm every time there is a threat, because number one, we can be wrong with the forecast. And even if we feel that type of situation is happening and then we bust, that counts against people trusting us in the long run. And then number two, they don't need to hear red alert, red alert, red alert every time there's a lower end severe thunderstorm or slight risk tornado day. That's not necessary.
We're not playing by corporate rules. We're doing.
And I don't criticize any meteorologist that is pigeonholed into having to do that. And
that's not their fault. Yeah.
It's consultants and management groups, and it's We know how it's driven, but we don't play that here.
Yeah.
It's so interesting how many times I've heard you guys talk about, oh, well, apologetically, I don't have all of the official training, and oh, we might not be right all the time. And you are so incredibly humble. And I think you're just this wonderful example of doing the communication piece right. And there's something to be said for us thinking of ourselves as a field more like people think about doctors. Like, you can think about us as all having different kinds of judgment styles. There are some doctors you go to, you'll get a prescription, you'll walk away with whatever. There are some who are very, they take a very different stance on that. This is why our Crest commercials talk about 9 out of 10 dentists recommend XYZ. Like, I think it's fair. It's very fair for there to be people of different opinion in good faith in our community and have different takes on risk. And there's a very special role to be played, I think, by what you're trying to do, because there are so many people in the public that are like the person in their family or in their friend group or at their workplace who pays attention to the weather. And they want to know, like, something that they can trust, that's honest, bottom line. And I'll bet you anything that there's a large share of those people who are gravitating toward information you're providing or information like yours. And, when you think about that, the role you're playing could be so far outsized compared to your audience, because those people could be taking your messages and then promulgating them along, passing them along. They play a vital role in our warning system. We know this. A lot of people get their warnings from other people. It's a huge deal. So I just wanted to make that comment that I really appreciate I know sometimes people come on our show and we're really hard on them. And I feel like this is the anti that. We're just kind of like lauding praise on you guys. But I really do feel like this is just kind of how it should be done. And it's just so wonderful. And you are just so strikingly humble. And, I love the humility. It's a great attribute to have, but do take to heart just how important what you're doing is. And there's no degree of scientific training you can attain to get the kind of values that you have, that you're bringing to the science. That's all you. And that is what makes what you're doing valuable. So just thank you. And now I'll pass the baton along, because I have just, again, not asked a question really, but just heaped you with praise.
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head there, Kim. There are people all over the country beating a path to Ben Luna's door in Lawrenceburg, Tennessee, and coming away with the same assessment that you have, Kim. And I'm so grateful that Cherie Smiley introduced me to you, Ben, and your entire team made me feel so welcome when I came and visited a couple of times. I felt like I was truly at home. So, Kim, the flip side of that is they're sharing this information all around the country. So, Ben, at the same time, everybody looks at what you do and they want to do it, but it's not easy.
No.
So, talk about the challenges that are engaged. And then Johnny has a question I'm going to ask for him after we explore that topic.
Sure. My wife and I don't have children.
And give her a hug for me when you get home tonight. She's such a sweet lady.
She's a high school counselor, and she has 1,200 that she says are her kids. So when it comes, and I always will lead with that, because I'll tell people this thing is kind of like our kid.
That's how she has the patience to deal with us, Dan.
That's true. Well, yeah. I think that's true.
Yeah. Especially Fred and Brian. Kelly's the golden child.
You kind of are.
Yeah. No, the whole operation. This morning, I was tearing stuff out of the IT room across the hallway, trying to make things better than they were yesterday. I'm
The janitor.
Yeah, well, yeah.
The humility helps on that front because I mean, we kind of are, right?
Yeah, when you go into business for yourself, and I've got a wonderful business partner, Kevin, oversees the sports side of the operation. But when it comes down to it, you've got to be willing to step up, and you might be the best meteorologist in the whole wide world, but you have to be the IT guy. You have to be the sales manager. You have to be the business manager. And then hold on, you've got to be the janitor and the plumber and the electrician sometimes too. Although the electrician part is kind of shocking. Found that out the hard way.
He's giving you a run for your money, James.
Yeah.
This is a daily thing.
It is.
They'll hear crash, bangs, and owls. I put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into this.
Literally all of them.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Have really good friends at the fire department. They know that, oh, yeah, he's done something else. But that's the commitment you have to do. I'm kind of like James Spann. I wake up when other people should be far enough and deep into sleep, but I start my day at 4:00 in the morning. I do that by logging into the computers, making sure that everything is running smooth. This machine needs to be restarted, so I'll do that. Luckily, I can do a lot of that remotely from home, even though I only live 2 blocks from here. But it's that kind of commitment. And again, these others sitting at the table, they do the same thing. It is a family effort. And I've not said a lot about him, but I've got our other intern from the weather side over here, Sam, too. And it's that level of commitment to come in and say, hey, it's not just a job. This is a life commitment. This is something that I'm all in on. Yeah, I get a paycheck every week, but I'm here to help people. I'm here because I love people. I love to, make what I can to benefit somebody in a way that may not have in some way, even if it's just a smiling face at the start of a weathercast and they watch the first 15 seconds of it. That might be the one smile that changes the course of their day that maybe has started bad when they watch, whenever one of us. But that's what, we're here for. And that's the level of commitment that we kind of take and go with it.
Yeah, I've been having been to dinner with you and Sarah, I can attest to the fact that every kid in that restaurant that night knew that Sarah was a second mom because they all came up and spoke to her. And
oh yeah,
and you could tell you guys are just an incredible part of your community. And Johnny wanted me to ask a question on his behalf. He said Jack Welch, the long-term CEO at GE, lived by the aphorism, hire the attitude, train the aptitude. It's easy to train someone in a vocation, but good luck changing their attitude. And to have the attitude of service is remarkable and exactly what Jack Welch meant. So comment on that, Ben and any other members of the team.
It's kind of interesting that's kind of what happened with me. You guys took a chance on me. You hired me when I was 18, fresh out of high school, still in high school. Actually, it was May of 2020. It was during COVID, and I was still in high school. And
did you get any NIL money when you came to work for them?
Listen, I'm not doing this for the chemtrail paycheck, that's for sure. But no, really. I mean, like,
you got milk and bread dollars.
We get the milk and bread dollars, but we don't get the chemtrail payments. Not yet, anyways. Yeah. But he's done this for 6,408 years. He's gone through the ringer. She's degreed, and of course I'm just a guy. And for the past 4 or 5 years, I've trained, and I think I'm pretty okay at it now, sort of. And I appreciate the fact that, what was the saying? Hire the attitude, train the aptitude. I like that.
That's right.
And that's kind of what this is. I've worked here for as long as a college degree would have been, and I feel like I've learned so much that I'm still learning it. And
the knowledge and the experience around this table. You talk about humble, the guy at the end of the table over there. Yeah, keep looking. Fred Gossage, his reputation, I knew about Fred.
Oh, I've known about him for years.
For probably 6 or 7 years before I actually talked to him in person. of being one of the
weather
best meteorological minds in the Southeast, and that is unparalleled. I love telling the story. In 2021, and this was our moment that we first had a major weather event. You build a weather broadcast entity and a dual pole radar, and nothing happens for 6, 7, 8 months. And then finally, in February of 21, we were faced with a pretty big potential for winter storm. And right out of the bat, Fred came to me and he said, look, I know how this is going to work. This is going to be a big deal. Everybody else, and again, and no disrespect to anybody, but everybody for days out, hey, this is not going to be a big deal, not going to be a big deal. And then Fred, the whole time, I'm saying, Fred, I mean, I see what everybody's saying. He said, Bing, trust me, just trust me. And he said, I'm going to go for a forecast of 8. Was it
4 to 6?
4 to 6 widespread.
And that was after we had the sleet.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember
and,
that.
We wound up that forecast verified. And I had, members of our community here that came and said, hey, man, we thought y'all were crazy, but now, respect. Thank you. Thank you. And it's that mind down there. And, I tell people, yeah, you can go to college for meteorology, but then you can go sit with Fred Gossage for an afternoon.
Yeah.
And when Kelly came on board with us, I told her, I said, welcome to Fred U.
So yeah, Dr. Fred, man.
Well, yeah. And then from my perspective, I went through all of the calculus, all of the physics, all of the dynamic meteorology, derived all of the equations, learned all of the origin of everything that can be traced back to some sort of equation. That's all great. And the fundamentals are so important. But at the same time, I'm not from this geographical area. I don't know the history. Of course, everyone knows April 27th, 2011, but I don't know all of the 5,000 other dates that Fred Gossage can spew off and then tell me, well, this is how the atmosphere acted this day. And this event coming up in a few days, the atmosphere looks to be setting up similar to this. And so that's why I think that this will play out this way. And I was like, well, that's not exactly what my textbook was saying, but you know what? You have to trust the geography sometimes over the equations because the atmosphere is fluid. It's always changing and it's never the same. You can capture any concept in a textbook, but you can never permanently capture anything in the atmosphere and record that down because nothing is ever going to be exactly the same. And so I think that, yes, the schooling is definitely valuable in some way, shapes, or forms, but also just the experience and knowledge of years and years
intuition.
Of just intuition.
You can't teach intuition.
You can't teach intuition. And I mean, perhaps you can teach a geographical history of meteorology and phenomena that happen in a location and learn that in school, but you really do get that by experience and you learn that by experience. And that's, to me, almost far more valuable.
I would agree with that. And that's kind of why I don't want to sound like I'm on the defense regarding education or lack thereof. In fact, this year, in the last 6 months, I've been trying to get certified from PSU. That's been a fun little program because some credentials are better than none, I suppose. But I would hope that a reputation you build speaks for itself, and there's a lot of, not to open another can of worms, but there's sort of a weird relationship with some people who say, oh, you haven't earned the term of meteorologist or title of meteorologist. And, I think that's a whole different discussion, but I feel like if anyone, this guy, he's insane with that climatology, that meteorology. This is a meteorologist.
With that word, I hold a job title here, but I don't even call myself that.
Yeah,
if you guys look
I
at
agree.
my Facebook profile, I'm the chief weather dude here.
Yeah,
I feel that I do have forecasting knowledge that can be set alongside a lot of other people that have a 4-year degree. I'm not trying to up myself or anything like that, but I've done this.
He's really good.
Operational, this is Spanish Inquisition, but I try to show the same respect because I know so many people have already gone forth and put in so many hours and hours and hours of their work.
Seriously,
I don't want to show that disrespect. And at the same time, I'm working toward having those same credentials because I understand how important they are. But like they said, and it's not in defense of myself, but like these guys have said, you can't replace operational experience with
Yeah, that institutional knowledge, and that's what you were speaking to, Kelly, is so important. And Johnny was shaking, or Johnny was nodding his head. And earlier, Fred, he had paid homage to you in the chat. I don't know if you saw that, but he mentioned that he had learned a lot from you through your posts on Talk Weather, which Brian
Johnny and I go back like Cadillac seats. We've known each other for a while.
Yeah.
Now that's an honorable mention for the show title there, but I think the doing it for the chemtrail paycheck been nominated as the show title, and I think that's probably going to win. Kelly, I wanted to hear from you about social media. You mentioned earlier, about how you've learned all these other things. Ben mentioned that you're really good on social media and these big outbreaks. Give us some tips, some things you've learned that could help us be better in that regard.
Teach the old people, Kelly.
I'll try my
That's
best.
right.
Listen, like I mentioned, my husband's a youth pastor, so if I'm not on social media, I'm not even going to understand the words that they say. So I am on social media, whether I want to be there or not. But it's also, the thing is, you have to meet your viewers and your audience where they're at. A lot of people are cutting the cable cord, and that's just the fact of the matter. They're just getting streaming, and they're just on social media. So that's why, of course, where we fit in and fill in those gaps. And, a lot of times during severe weather coverage, I'm over at the desk making sure that people 30, 45 minutes out, they're not under the tornado warning yet. They're not under the severe thunderstorm warning yet, but they need to know the timeline of this dangerous storm that is coming to them. So I am always thinking 30 minutes to an hour ahead. And that is what I'm pushing out on social media. You don't have to. Okay, so we have, the automatic, this county, this area is under a tornado warning, under a severe thunderstorm warning. Those people likely know that it is raining cats and dogs, thunder, lightning outside. The people who don't know what's coming are the people who, again, 30 minutes to an hour away from the storm. So I'm always thinking in the future, reaching that audience so that they don't get caught off guard, because it's just every meteorologist grinds their gears. That storm came out of nowhere. But, you have these meteorologists tracking the storm for hours and hours. But the thing is they're not paying attention because it's not affecting them or impacting them in that moment. But if they see on social media, oh, hey, that's my town, and they say it's 30 minutes away, maybe I should start paying attention, because whether we want to admit it or not, these people are not as in tune or as infatuated with the weather that we are. They're not as aware, and we just have to remember and realize that, and again, meet people where they're at and put it in their terms, not our terms. I was always told to explain things at a 5th grade level, because you could have 5th graders watching you. You could have people who are a little bit less fortunate in their education and just need to know whether they're in danger or not, plain and simple. And that's kind of where my passion comes to. And I like to kind of engage the younger audience, because that is who's typically on social media. And so, sometimes I'll put out Facebook Reels or TikToks, and, sometimes they might be silly, but that grows your audience. And then when there is a serious situation, you already have that relationship and that trust. So some tips of advice, I guess, is always be thinking in the future for social media, and just try to reach your audience where they're at, and don't expect them to come to you. But unfortunately, we're just in the age that we have to come to them. Everything is on demand right now.
Don't get temporal tunnel vision is kind of what I would take away from that. Yeah.
And Kelly, you showed me the really cool notification system that comes through your Barron system. How you can literally see where your app users are geographically.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen Ben mention off screen while he's on the wall, let's put out a notification using this really cool system to tell the folks downstream the storm is coming. Talk about that system and how important it is. And then I have one more, and I promise I'm going to be quiet. Bruce Jones, I know, Bruce, we invited you here at 8:15. I know you're loving this. If you stay 15 minutes before we come to your spot, you get to ask a free question. So be thinking what it is. Kelly, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, so our notification system, so we have the freedom and liberty to send a notification right to the phone of all of our app users, or we can be very geo-specific and send it to, we can literally zoom into a street, to a house, and send a notification to that one household. It's that geo-specific. And so a lot of times if we have a confirmed tornado, I will go to our push notification app and I will draw out a polygon. Again, they're not in the tornado warning or tornado emergency yet, but we are able to alert them literally directly to their phone, a notification, just like they've got a new Facebook notification, a new Instagram, like, oh, we've got a dangerous storm with a tornado confirmed heading our way in 30 to 45 minutes. We need to be thinking about taking cover and where our safe space is.
Especially for mobile home residents.
Yes.
And people.
Exactly.
Yes, and that's where it's very helpful because
you can draw out around that. Yeah.
We tell them it is not safe to be in their mobile home, especially with any tornado. So giving them that extra 30 minutes to be able to get in their vehicle or coordinate a ride 10 minutes down the road to a safer structure, they have that time. And if we can give them that time frame, it's just another way to communicate risk and to potentially save lives that we wouldn't save, even with our freedom as an on-demand streaming service, to where people can, take our stream with them to their safe space. We can also just send it right to their phone with a notification 30 minutes to an hour beforehand. So we have that ability to draw geographic locations and pinpoint an area and send them specifically a notification that nobody else will get, or we can send it to all of our app users, just depending on what the information is.
Like Kelly Rawson is live at 12 o'clock.
Live at 12.
Right, yeah.
Tennessee Valley. That's exactly right. One last thing, then I'll make sure all the other panelists are taken care of here. But Kelly, it's important for young women to see people like themselves. And I know that you cut an impressive figure when you go in and talk to schools and groups of young girls. Talk about some of the the things you do, you like to do, things you like to say when you're speaking in order to promote STEM.
So a lot of, as now that I'm in a more rural area, growing up, I never really saw that, boundary of like, oh, girls don't really do this. I had plenty of girls in all of my math and science classes, but I was in a much more urban area, and that's just more part of the culture, a little bit more advanced in that specific term. But now that I'm in more of a rural area, I see a much more higher demand for encouraging these girls, because a lot of times, they just see what culture has been beforehand with their families or with their friends' families, and there's nothing wrong with the status quo or the way that things are, but there's also so much untapped potential in these young girls who may not know the entirety of what their future could hold. So a lot of times I just make them aware of like, hey, do you enjoy your math class or your science class? Because sometimes they're like, yeah, I love math class, but what am I supposed to do with that? Like, no, I see all of these boys who want to be astronauts or engineers or whatever, but I'm just like, that could be you. Here I am, a 28-year-old female meteorologist. I took all of the math classes, all of the science classes. I was a few classes away from getting an engineering degree. That's how, tedious a meteorology degree is. But at the same time, I try to encourage them and just, explain to them their worth and their potential in the way that they can use their passions and what they are good at, and that could become a career for them. Sometimes, like for me, at least, my passion did become my career, and I'm super blessed to be able to say that. And I know that's not the case for everybody, but I just try to let these young girls know, like, hey, there is a lot more for you than you may have been exposed to so far. And I guess that's kind of where my, you could call it wisdom comes from. But I just, I want to see so many more female meteorologists. I want to see so many more female engineers. I just want to see so many more females in the industry, because something that, and this may be getting off on a tangent, I, at my two previous stations, I was on the weather team, but there were also males on the weather team. I would never be asked about the forecast from a news director or an assistant news director or a general manager. They would always go to the male, not even the chief. But if I'm sitting right there, am I ever asked? No. Here, it's different. The guy who's over sports, who Ben has mentioned, Kevin, he'll come over to me and just say, hey, what's it looking like for the games this afternoon? And he completely 100% trusts my input, and that just speaks volumes to me, and it really humbles me, honestly, so that not only he has my trust, but people in the community also have my trust. And so I just like to encourage girls that there's more out there for them, and that just because it's math and science and it may be nerdy and boring, nerdy is fun.
I love nerdy.
Nerdy is cool.
I love nerdy.
I love my life being a nerd, and I'm proud of it. And so I just kind of try to not rewire, because that sounds like brainwashing. I'm not trying to brainwash.
We're brainwashing them into being nerds.
It's the chemtrails.
To open their eyes to what is out there that they may not be exposed to in a rural community.
Okay. Kelly, thank you so much. I need to be so fired as the air traffic controller over here in chat. So if I'm not back next week, guys, y'all will know why. But I totally have botched things tonight. Johnny had an important question. Ben, talk about hiring opportunities and what anybody would need to do to get on your radar. I know Riley Blackwell, who's on James's team at ABC 3340, interned with you guys. So give us any dirt on Riley you need to. And if you,
where should we begin? Yeah, I was going to say no, we've got a great family. We wound up with interns and people wanting to intern with us. We've got a great relationship now at the University of Tennessee Martin. Got a good relationship with the folks down at UAH.
UNA.
And yeah, especially the University of North Alabama. They're sending us interns, a lot of sports interns from UNA. UT Martin has a great meteorology program. We've got interns coming in sports from University of Tennessee Southern, which is next door in Pulaski. And then our local high schools. I've got two folks that want to come in and intern. And this is what's really cool. One has a dual interest in both weather and sports. The other is 100% sports minded, both young girls. And that's really awesome because they see Kelly and they say, I want to be like Kelly. Mm-hmm. But really, if anybody's interested, shoot me an email, go to the website. Our emails are on there. And, just reach out and we'll see where we can, put you and what we've got. And our facility is not the biggest in the world by any stretch of the imagination. But we'll try to make room and, try to help you out and let you learn a little bit along the way.
We can always put Brian in a broom closet if we need to make a little more room for someone. So it's always
man.
It's tough being the young kid on the team.
Yeah, I'm the baby brother that gets bullied. I've accepted my fate. It's all right.
The hazing is horrible.
This is the hazing. It's just them calling me a baby in various different ways, or a vampire. But yeah. Fred said we won't go there tonight.
He's the palest.
Yeah, I am. I don't know if the camera. I am pretty pale, and it's like we're not going to go there. Find your Zen place, Brian. We're not going to go there.
No. So the in joke, and then I'll be quiet real quick. We were doing a tour once, and we have our pictures on the wall. And these little ladies walked past Brian's picture, and the one that he had up at the time, I mean, he hadn't seen the sunshine in 12 years. And this little lady, she's probably about 75 years old, looks up, adjust her glasses and said, "Who's that little Edward Cullen looking fella?" And ever since then, Brian is the house vampire. So he sparkles in the sunshine. But anyway, that's the in joke. And we play that every now and then in some capacity.
And it's I have a canon at this point. I have a whole lore behind me.
Yeah.
And Jen, you get the closing argument before Span asks the hard questions.
No, I wanted to let you guys know I'm so inspired by you. I see a lot of similarities in the heart of Tennessee Valley weather with the heart of Tornado Talk, and we have completely different business models. But there's so many similarities, even to the point where, you met Brian in high school, and little Nelson came to me in high school with his Smithville summary, and now he's doing full-fledged traveling and research with me, and writing so many wonderful things. And but it's your heart to help people, and you're serving your community with the real-time weather coverage, and getting out into the community and making sure people just know that you want them to be safe. And I think that's amazing. And then from our perspective, we're serving different communities to write about the history of their community, because they want their story to be known. And I think I'm so inspired right now, because there's so many things I'm trying to do with Tornado Talk to get us to grow. And I've just been inspired by your story of where you've taken it over the past 4 years to help people. And I just want to make sure that how much we appreciate what you're doing, and just we're excited to see where you're going to go with this next.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I hate to do this, but we've got to break here because
it's
going to be midnight. So we have got to roll these recorded segments, but everybody have a pick of the week ready. But we're going to roll Tony Rice and his astronomy report. We've got Jen's This Week in Tornado History. We're going to bring in Bruce Jones, who's been waiting for 3 hours, but Bruce is a very patient man, And we'll do picks of the week and a whole lot more as WeatherBrains rolls along.
Looking beyond the atmosphere, here's Tony Rice with your Astronomy Outlook.
Today is Earth Day. That's a pretty big deal at NASA, too. When you think of NASA, you probably think of spacecraft and telescopes exploring the solar system. But a large portion of NASA's fleet of spacecraft is looking not out into space, but orbiting and looking back on the Earth. NASA's Earth observing system is made up of 33 missions. A few are solely NASA missions, but most are joint ones. The Deep Space Climate Observatory, or DSCOVR, is a good example of an interagency mission. This joint NASA-NOAA mission sits between the Earth and the Sun at about 10% of the distance to the Sun, and it provides critical data for NOAA's Space Weather Prediction Center, as well as NASA's ongoing heliophysics research. The GOES satellites, out there in geosynchronous orbit, the ones that we know and love, that's another good example of a NASA-NOAA joint mission. Other missions like the Global Precipitation Measurement Core Observatory, better known as GPM, or the Tropical Rainfall Measuring Mission, also known as TRIM, where they focus on precipitation. Now, each of these missions, they all contribute data that will help us better understand our atmosphere and support further research of climate change. But there's one set of missions in particular that literally work in lockstep with each other, the A-Train. Now, this is currently made up of Aqua, Aura, OCO2, and GCOM W1. They make up an afternoon constellation, or A-Train for short. These satellites are in polar orbit, and they cross the equator running northbound at about 1:30 local time, all within seconds to minutes of each other. This provides near simultaneous observations of parameters like CO2, ozone, aerosols, sea temperature, and salinity, as well as the water cycle. By passing over the same places on the Earth's surface at the same time each day, this provides consistency in observations that makes this a very valuable data set in understanding changes. You can learn more about these missions and NASA's other Earth focus efforts by visiting earthobservatory.nasa.gov. It's your Astronomy Outlook. Follow me at RTP Hokie for more spacey stuff like this.
This week in tornado history, per the Storm Prediction Center database, 20 tornadoes occurred on April 22nd, 2011. The strongest, an EF4, hit parts of the St. Louis metropolitan area. It reached a maximum intensity as it tracked through the community of Bridgeton, just west of Lambert St. Louis International Airport in St. Louis County. The total path was 21.3 miles and a maximum width of this tornado up to a half mile. At the airport, many of the large windows in the main terminal building were blown out or damaged by flying debris, and a large section of roof was peeled from Concourse C. Most at the airport were evacuated at lower levels and to interior rooms before the tornado hit, but there were still 5 people injured by flying debris. Damage to the airport was estimated at $35 to $40 million. Overall, in St. Louis County, 233 structures, homes, and businesses sustained major damage. Over 2,000 had minor to moderate damage. Read about this event on our website, tornadotalk.com.
Each week at this time, we speak to one of our favorite people on the planet, Bruce Jones from Midland Radio. He's the national ambassador for Weather Radio. And Ben Luna, I'll ask you, I know Weather Radio is important to folks there in southwestern Tennessee. What do you think the uptake or the number of homes that have a weather radio is in your area?
Every time I go to a school, I will ask kids, raise your hand if you have a smoke alarm. Everybody raises their hand for a smoke alarm. I say, okay, how many kids have a weather radio? And typically I get maybe 25%, maybe 30% of those kids. And I stress, because if a kid goes to Walmart and they bring it over and they say, Mom or Dad, we've got to have this, Mom or Dad probably going to buy it for them. And, you instill in their minds young, you have to have a weather radio. If you have a smoke alarm in your house, you have to have a weather radio too. And I'll beat a dead horse with it. The life and death difference that one small device can make for an entire family is priceless.
Well, I think I've just picked up something very important when I go on school visits, because Bruce Jones, there's no other better way to message that, because kids reach their parents.
Yeah, and when you look at tornado climatology, especially in Alabama, the number one hour of the day for tornadoes is 5 o'clock in the evening. And a lot of time the kids are home from school, but the parents might not be home from work. So you got your kids home alone at that point in time during the climatologically and diurnally most active time of the day. And they're home alone and they're watching Netflix, or they're watching Hulu or Disney Plus, or they're playing a video game or watching a DVD. There's nothing on the TV screen that's going to warn them that there's something on the way. So the importance of having a NOAA weather radio, I always felt, when I'm working on TV, I can't be calling my family at home. They've got to be listening for that weather radio. And that weather radio is going to alert them to get to the basement faster than I could if I were to pick up my phone and call them. So yeah, I agree with Ben. I just don't understand why these things are not as common as smoke detectors, but I hope and I wish and I pray that someday they will be, because they certainly do save lives, especially when parents aren't at home and the kids are there alone. These devices will alert them and allow them time to get to their safe spot.
Well, Bruce Jones is coming up on Mother's Day here, and that's the last thing my wife needs is another weather radio. She'd probably throw me out of the house if I had another one. But I keep a picture of a WR120 on my computer so I can immediately, because I get asked the question a lot. I'm going down to Walgreens, I'm going to CVS, I'm going to Walmart. I got to get a weather radio. Which one do I want? And that one's my favorite. But you got others, and you got a special deal for us.
Absolutely. If you're a WeatherBrains fan, there's a promo code you can use when you go to midlandusa.com. Midlandusa.com is the website you go to, and then the promo code that you use is SPAN25. That's SPANN25, and that promo code will get you 25% off all the weather products and accessories. That would be 25% off a desktop public alert certified weather radio, like the white one on the screen, the WR120, or 25% off an emergency crank radio, which are good to have in hurricane zones where you might need to evacuate, or you might be left without power for several days. And you can crank that emergency crank radio and generate your own electricity to listen to AM radio, FM radio, and NOAA weather radio. So there are two different basic concepts here: a travel emergency radio with the hand crank on it, or the desktop radio that you can designate to go off for only the county that you live in. Whichever one you like, or whichever one you want to gift to your mom for Mother's Day, it will be appreciated, and you'll appreciate getting 25% off when you use the promo code SPAN25 at midlandusa.com.
Well, Bruce, keep preaching the good word, and we will too, because we're all ambassadors here for that life-saving device. Thank you for joining us. And tonight we're joined by our friend Johnny Parker. And Johnny, a little birdie told me that there might be a street in your hometown being renamed for a local hero. Is that true? And what are they going to call it? What are they going to call this street, Johnny? Yeah, he has to
they
look it up.
are
Talk about humility. There you
they
go.
are um they are they are putting my name on the on the road on um on Saturday on Sat on Saturday morning at a 10.
Wow. So they're going to unveil the street sign and everything. It's going to be cool. And I can't wait till I see it in Google Maps. I'm gonna know I'm in a good place. So, Johnny, I know you keep up with these kind of statistics, but we're pretty deep into the Western Pacific typhoon season. It's off to a slow start. How many days has it been? How many days are we into the season? And what's the record?
So we are we have gone now a total of 112 days oh, without having the force system over them, and the record it was is back the year of um in the year of in the year of the year of the year of 19 the year of 19 the year of 1998 with a total of 187 days without
Johnny,
the forced system.
that sounds like a good record for us to break this year, Johnny. Let's just keep that in. Now, maybe we'll have the same luck on the Atlantic side. A lot of people have got these crazy predictions. Johnny, are you going to tamp them down a little bit? Maybe less
Um,
name storms? What's your prediction in the Atlantic?
so 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 my prediction calls for a total of calls for a total of calls for a total of a 35
35.
35 um
Johnny. Oh my goodness! If you're
He's
right,
unhinged.
Well, I'm gonna earn my paycheck.
Yeah, we got our work cut out for us here.
Oh
Bring it
my
on.
goodness, Johnny! What is there an analog year we should go back and look at in your record keeping?
well so the three main analog years I'm using are 2017, 2020, and 2005.
Ooh, I don't like any of those years. Ooh.
That is not good. Rick Smith, what you want to say to that?
We're going to need a bigger alphabet, man.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
That's going to go through most of the secondary alphabet too. If even within reason, yeah, that's almost more than halfway through the secondary. So that would be, whew.
That would be terrible. Johnny, any areas you're particularly concerned about?
The so I'm pretty concerned about the northern and central Gulf Coast region.
Well, let's hope not. Are you going to try to go down there for a hurricane this year, Johnny?
I am.
Oh, okay. Well, we're gonna
Careful.
keep you in our thoughts and prayers here. You keep us posted. And I know we've been pretty lucky this severe weather season in the southeast, but
Yeah.
looks like that may be about to change, especially in your neck of the woods, huh?
The we it's looking like we might have a very decent threat between our dates between the dates between the Saturday through Tuesday time frame as the as like as the big trough of no pressure over the west and moves further eastward.
All right, so now that Johnny's got us all depressed, we can move on to picks of the week here. Wow, I was feeling good before this happened. So we got our James. I think James had to go. It's the top of the hour. He's got a newscast. We'll do picks of the week, and we'll do email next week. My pick. It's I don't know if you guys saw that AFD written. From Fort Worth, from Troy. I don't know if you know this meteorologist. He's moving to Southern Regional Headquarters.
Yep.
And his last AFD was pretty interesting about the future of weather forecasting, and I thought it was just brilliant. And again, all these picks will be up on weatherbrains.com. All right, so let's see. Jen, you go for it. Give us your pick of the week.
So my pick of the week is the SPC Climo summary, because Bill asked me earlier how many tornadoes have already occurred in Ohio. And so I thought, maybe I'd like to see if it's been updated. And preliminarily, it has been 43. Our average is 21. So yeah, the fatigue is real. And last week I was in the basement because the cell was coming right at me, and there was a tornado that was brief, EF0, about 5 miles from me to the southwest. And so it was a little unnerving, to say the least.
Tornadoes happen to real people at a real place at a real time. I say it all the time. Great pick, Jen. Thank you. All right, Rick Smith, go give us something good.
I've used this one before, but this is a good time of year. The SPC has a cool website where you can see all 8 days of the convective outlook. And this morning when I got on there, 5 of the 8 days have something in our area. So it's that time of year. So I think that's a good one just to have. That's one of my tabs that opens up automatically in the morning, just to kind of get an overview of what's going on.
All right. Well, let's go down the road to Kim. Kim, give us a good pick.
Oh, I'm going to need the foghorn. I came fully unprepared.
Ooh,
wow.
I'm so glad I had a pick, because Kim's the foghorn tonight. Yay.
All right. Love the melodious tones there. Troy Kimmel, go.
Number 2 for the foghorn, please.
Whoa.
I am going to take this opportunity. I want to ask Rick this, because Rick mentioned this, James, in regard to your pick of the week. Ted Ryan was the Sioux there at Fort Worth, right, Rick?
Yeah, correct.
Ted's an amazing guy. I've talked to him. He's really a great guy. What's he going to be doing at Southern Region?
He's going to be in the it's not called Scientific Services Division, whatever it's called now, Science and Technology. I don't know his exact role, but he's going to continue on kind of in the same area, science and, research operations kinds of stuff, I think.
Yeah, amazing guy. There you go,
awesome.
James.
All right.
He's awesome.
Yeah. Bruce Jones, give us a good pick.
Hey, National Weather Service, NOAA have this new heat.gov website. It's all heat related stuff. And, we talk a lot about tornadoes and flash floods and all the, the truly dynamic weather dangers. But of course, heat's the most dangerous one of the bunch. And there's this new heat.gov website with a lot of forecast tools, a lot of impact tools. Very impressive. Very impressive.
Yeah, a lot of publicity on that today. So it's an interesting site there. So check that out. All right, let's go to Ben, Fred, Brian, and Kelly. I don't care. You guys figure out who starts, but you guys give us a pick.
You want to start, Fred? I'm just going to go ahead and do our website, so you can find us tnvalleyweather.com, tnvalleyweather.com. We also have a smartphone app too. Just search for the same thing, TN Valley Weather, on Apple devices and Android devices as well.
Oh, that's it. You all get a pick. Come on.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
what you want?
okay.
We got 4 people here. We got
Kelly, you're
4
up next.
You gonna have the
slots.
foghorn, Kelly?
I'm gonna have the foghorn.
Wow.
I'll take it if you don't.
Go ahead.
My pick of the week is Daryl Horstman's Iowa Mesonet website. You can generate any SPC plot of any location, of any temperature trend, of any climate law. One of my favorite resources. Everyone check it out. That is my favorite. And also the level 2 radar data is there. Please become a radar nerd like me and James A. go over to Daryl Hirschman's Iowa Mesonet website. That's my pick of the week.
My pick of the week is going to be for a kid out there who's watching this broadcast tonight who has a dream of one day becoming a meteorologist. And, you might be sitting in your bedroom looking at a computer screen now, wanting to be in a TV studio when you grow up. Dream big, always be humble, and keep the faith, and you can achieve any dream that you have, and you will be successful.
Wow. Great words. Great words. Kelly, did you say your husband's a youth pastor?
Yes.
He needs a raise. The high school kids have no sense of humor. None. Zero. Children's ministry. That's where it's at. Third graders understand sarcasm. You can teach them middle school level science. They're sweet. They don't smell weird yet. They don't watch TikTok videos while you're pouring out your heart and your soul. So
You'd be surprised.
The man needs a raise. So on that note, we're late here, but what? Oh, Bill, I'm sorry. We got to get. I keep forgetting. I'm so panicked to get out of here
tonight. I know.
Go.
We're gonna to shorten the show. We're gonna have to get worse guests. I think is gonna be the key. Yeah, James, my pick of the week, if I can find it here, experimental NOAA Surf Forecast Matrix. That's coming out. I think that is so cool. And to say what you said, Ben, about, there's somebody out there. There's a young man, Beckett Moore. I don't know if y'all have gotten to meet this young man. I think Rick Smith has. Troy has.
Yeah.
He's going to be on WeatherBrains in a few weeks. But he wrote me the nicest personal note, and it came in the mail, and I was just so floored. So kids, don't be bashful. Go to these conferences, these meetings, these things. Get out there, interact, be like Beckett. And his dad was there. Troy's, Mississippi State. The whole family's mom was in Dallas when we were out there at Fort Worth at the National Storm Chasing Summit. So be like Beckett. That's what I would advise you to do. And James, next week we're gonna have a great show. We're talking to Christina Ballantyne, Dr. Kim Cloko-McLean. It's a command performance for you. You have to be here. We're going to talk about tornado warning visual effectiveness with broadcasters, a presentation Troy and I saw at Mississippi State, and Charlie Woodrum from the National Weather Service is going to join us as a guest panelist. And we've got a lot of great shows coming up after that, but that's the one that's next in the landing lights.
Awesome. And, Beckett, they went all the way from St. Louis to DeKalb, Illinois to hear me speak. At Northern Illinois. I mean, that's pretty impressive, but I totally agree. I'm very encouraged by this next generation. But hey, we got to go. For those that are new here, WeatherBrains is typically on the air every Monday night, 8 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock Central on the YouTube channel, youtube.com/WeatherBrains. But we know most of you listen. And we did not have time to do email tonight. If you want to get in touch with us, the email address, it is email@weatherbrains.com. We'd love to hear from you. On behalf of the entire WeatherBrains crew, I'm James Spann. Thanks for listening. Have a great week, and God bless.
Thank you, everybody.
Great show.
Great. And it looked really cool with y'all all on the same set. That was beautiful.
Excellent.
Yes.
Thank you for the
nice audio and nice lighting too, guys.
Yeah, we're making full use of the studio for sure. Yeah.